Hey, this is Ryan Savitsky from One Step Closer, and you're listening to The New Scene.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The New Scene. I am your host, Keith, and we're back with another brand new episode. And on the show this week, we have Dewey Halpaus. He got his start in Anatomy of a Ghost. He went on to tour with Portugal, the man, and you know him now from the Pure Pleasure podcast. I was on his show recently. He came on my show, and this is just a great conversation. Two titans of podcasting side by side, and we cover everything. His bands. We go into a deep dive about his podcast. We talk about therapy, dealing with past trauma, Dewey's whole approach to podcasting. It's a really interesting conversation, and that's coming up shortly. But first, here's how you can support The New Scene. Rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a main channel with full video episodes and a clips channel with clips from select episodes. We have shirts for sale at our store at Death Wish Inc. Pick one up. It's a great way to support the show. And you can follow us on social media at New Scene Pod. Also, don't forget to support Iodine Recordings. Blood Horse, a Malign Star, is out right now. It's limited to 250 copies on blood red vinyl. This features members of American Nightmare, The Red Chord, and All Pigs Must Die. The Dogs of Hope, a benefit for shelter animals, is out right now, and this comp features rare and unreleased tracks from Killswitch Engage, Dead Guy, Snapcase. I was just listening to the Snapcase track at band practice earlier today. Awesome. I think it's a cover of some band. I'm not sure, but listen, check it out. It also features Orange 9mm, Walter Schreifels, and more. Proceeds from the comp benefit a dog shelter in Alabama. I can't remember the name of it, but pick this thing up. It's for a good cause. There's a pre-fest show happening at the Brass Mug on Thursday, October 23rd, featuring Right on Time, Hey Thanks, Drought, Audio Karate, and Signals Midwest. That's a great show. Go check it out. The new LP from the Casket Lottery is up now for pre-order. It's called Feel the Teeth. I'm looking forward to this one. And pick up the Iodine Recordings Post-Hardcore Blend at Essex Coffee Roasters. I have personally tried this coffee, and I really enjoyed it. For more information, head to iodinerecordings.com, sign up for the newsletter, and you can follow the label on Instagram at Iodine Recordings. And say hello to our sponsor for the month of June, Mind Over Matter Records. That's right, Mind Over Matter Records is back to sponsor The New Scene for the month of June. Mind Over Matter Records is an independent record label founded by Austin Keane in 2009, and it's home to releases from a ton of bands you know and love: Zayo, The Juliana Theory, Evergreen Terrace, and more. Post-hardcore band Mission to Sleep have just released their LP A Spark or the End. Make sure you check out the record on streaming services, and you can order the LP now at mindovermatterrecords.com. A second pressing of the new self-titled record from Oriska just went up in 2 new colors. You can order direct from mindovermatterrecords.com, deathwishinc.com, and if you're in Europe, Deathwish Europe and Devil Dog Distro have the record in their stores. And my band, Memory Entry, just released our debut EP called Our World Is Going to Disappear. The Iodine variant of the record is sold out, but there's still a couple left at mindovermatterrecords.com. Make sure you grab one while supplies last. I think there is less than 10 left. We also have 2 new t-shirts to go along with the EP. And don't forget to check out the latest single from Ben. It's called Passions of Great Misfortune, and their debut LP will be coming out on Mind Over Matter Records. And there's a lot of other great music to check out at Mind Over Matter Records. Her Head's on Fire, Dad Hats, Shady Side, and tons more. For more information, head to mindovermatterrecords.com, and you can follow the label on Instagram at MOM Records. Okay, so check back in with me in segment 3. We'll do a wrap-up of the conversation with Dewey. I saw Alcest and Mono recently. I completely forgot I even went to that show. We'll do a quick recap of that. We'll talk about everything. But right now, we are going to speak to Dewey Halpaus. Enjoy. All right, we are here now with Dewey Halpaus. Dewey, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Glad to be here.
Yes, Dewey, it's great to have you here. You know, two titans of podcasting side by side, talking, planning, strategizing. Well, maybe not all of that, but Dewey, I'm excited to have you here. You know, I was on your show recently and I had so many podcast questions and conversations that I wanted to ask you, but I didn't want to I just wanted to answer the questions you asked me and not I wanted to save some of the goods for when you're here. And look, you've done a lot. Anatomy of a Ghost, Portugal the Man, and of course, Peer Pleasure Podcast. I want to talk to you about all of that. But Dewey, first I want to ask you, how are you doing today?
I am fantastic, but improving. That's what I'll say. That's what I always say, whether it's true or not, because it makes you think about it for a second.
Did you say fantastic, but improving?
Yes, I learned that from a old plumber buddy of mine. He used to say that. And it always made me think, what? There's a buddy of mine, JP, who does 31G Records from Locust. Whenever I ask that question to somebody, they always say something like, I'm great, I'm good. He would just sit there and be like, I'm decent. And I always remember it because it's the one thing that was different. It's the one time it wasn't like, I'm great, let's do this. He was just honest, I'm decent. So shout out to JP, but fantastic, but improving.
I like that. I'm going to remember that because when you said it, I stopped and I was like, whoa, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to be honest and it catches people off guard. They'll be like, how are you doing? And I'll be like, awful. This is going on. That's going on. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, okay. It's like, oh, you didn't really want to know. All right. I like to know how people are doing. And I even ask people if they're happy sometimes, just randomly. It catches them off guard. And I like to know. I care, Dewey. I care.
You care. I can tell. I think we talked about that too. I like how you start these because I know what's going to happen every time. But that's the only thing I know that's going to happen every time. So I'm immediately, when I see someone's on the show, I'm curious to what they say to that question. It doesn't follow the formula except for that. And I like that. There's one inkling of I wonder what they're going to say here. Otherwise, I have no idea.
That's the one jumping off point for me to get started, which we're doing now. So Dewey, you grew up in Portland or around there?
No, I grew up in Alaska.
You did?
Yeah. That's where all the guys and I met in middle school.
Where?
Wasilla.
Wow. Tell me about that. I imagine rocky shores and pine forests and mountains. What was it like?
It was cold in the winter and hot in the summer. Gross and muddy in the spring. It was awesome. I loved it. I was born in Longview, Washington. When I was 6 months old, my dad got a job up there on an island called Petersburg, running a grocery store. And my mom's like, well, let's go on this adventure. So we moved up to Alaska when I was 6 months old. So technically, I'm not an Alaskan-born Alaskan. But yeah, grew up on the island till I was 11. And then we moved up to the mainland when he got a different job, Wasilla. And that's where I met Zach and John and Joe and Nick and all the Anatomy of a Ghost guys turned Portugal guys. So we've known each other our whole lives pretty much. But,
wow.
It was awesome.
How populous was it where you were?
It's a lot bigger now, but I remember we got our first Walmart, we got our first Fred Meyer store, we got our first Best Buy. That was 8 years maybe after I'd been living there. It was fairly small. The island I grew up on was 3,000 people. I don't know exactly how big Wasilla was, but Wasilla was the little kind of weird. It wasn't a suburb. It was just, an hour from Anchorage. So you could commute to work if you wanted to in Anchorage, go to shows. But it was out in kind of the middle of nowhere enough to where, you drive 10, 15 minutes any direction, you're in the middle of nowhere. It was great.
Yeah. Did you like it? Did you like growing up there?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was awesome. I didn't know any different. So having seasons was great. Learning to drive in the snow was great. Being around things that could kill you that weren't people. Well, there was people, but being around things that could, level you out. You had a respect for the land. You had a respect for the environment around you. You learned self-reliance. It was just like any other 80s childhood. I mean, you go on your bike till the lights come on, but in summertime, the lights don't come on because it doesn't get dark. So you're out till, midnight playing with your friends, skateboarding, in the summertime. And, we kind of raised ourselves, but in that kind of environment, we learned a lot. And it was great for music because there's a very small music scene without a lot of venues. So the DIY ethic started early with us before we really knew what we were doing. We just started doing it. When we didn't have a place to play, we would just book a place ourselves and throw it on. Yeah, there's a whole lot there, but Alaska was great. I love it. I wish I could go back. It's just so expensive.
When was the last time you were there?
I was there in 2010, opening the new Target stores up there. I was working for Target at the time and did their mass hire events. So I'd go up there and interview hundreds of people to staff the stores. And I was there twice in 2010. That was the last.
So your relationship with music. Now, I'm curious, what were you into in Alaska and how did you discover punk, hardcore, whatever it was that grabbed you?
I was really into pop music. My dad had a radio show Thursday nights, which is when I do the podcast now. It's ironic, but Thursday nights we'd eat dinner, do the dishes, and then I'd hop in the van with him. We'd go to the local radio station on the island and he'd record the Big John show. And he did it all in one shot. He had songs he wanted to play. He kind of knew what he wanted to say, but he literally just pushed record for the hour, played music, did the bumper in between, no editing, nothing. He just did it. Because back then you recorded straight to tape, like cassettes in that station. And I was too rambunctious. So I would go to the record room while he was recording. I'd watch him from outside, but he let me go with him. And so I just listened to records. And the local Alaska Island radio station had a lot of pop writers, Hart and Tom Petty and all that stuff. And I'd just play those records and find something I liked. So that was kind of my genesis to music was that, and listening to my dad's voice and in the studio. He's just a grocery store manager that would go be Big John on Thursdays, which is funny because I'm just a plumber from Oregon, but then I come in here and I talk to people that I've always dreamed to talk to, including yourself. But yeah, so from there, moving up to the mainland, it was middle school, 6th grade. And basically I was listening to the pop music I got for Christmas or whatever. MC Hammer, Paula Abdul, Debbie Gibson, like all that stuff. I loved it. And then stuff my dad listened to, his records. But I was on the bus to school and someone had the Black Album by Metallica on a cassette on a stereo in the back of the bus. And I heard it and I just remember how warm it sounded and how thick it sounded. And I was like, what is this? Like, it's heavy, but it's melodic. And so that kind of clued me into some stuff. But the first week I was in Wasilla, I got detention for missing 2 classes, like being late because I couldn't find my way around. I wasn't used to it. It was the first time having multiple periods. So I have to go to after school detention. And there's this kid in the back who's being an asshole and to the teacher. And I'm like, who is this? He's got like a flannel on, a bowl cut. And they're like, Joe, knock it off. And I look back, who is this kid? So I talked to him afterwards and he's like, hey, would you want to hang out? I got some music and I play guitar and I need a ride to football practice. Do you think you guys give me a ride to football practice, but we can hang out before? I was like, sure. So he comes over to the house. He brings the first Weezer record. He brings the early Green Day records and he brings the Operation Ivy record. And we put it on and it changed my whole world. I was like, this is nuts. Like what? Like I could learn to play this stuff. And he's like, I already did. So he starts showing me some guitar stuff. And that was the genesis of the band. Like that's Joe was in Anatomy of a Ghost. He was in every iteration of bands I've been in. And his brother, Nick, my 2 best friends, Nick was the drummer of Anatomy of a Ghost. And then Nick and I went on to be in Portugal the Man. Joe did not. But that was it. Like that right there showed me that there's music out there I could do. And then I bought his shitty guitar for way too much. We still joke about how much he charged me for that thing. And he started teaching me to play guitar as we, got tab books or whatever off the internet. And then, I still liked like Stone Temple Pilots, and I got into like Pantera and White Zombie and Wu-Tang, and like everything just kind of opened up this crazy Alaskan, like feel. Like it's weird because Alaska music taste is dictated by who will actually go up there and play. So Pantera came, Ozzy, Stone Temple Pilots, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Fishbone, Agent Orange, Goldfinger, Bad Religion, Green Day. Those guys would come up. So that's who people would talk about, and that's who we'd see. I saw, put in perspective, at the Sullivan Arena, so I grew up in a Mormon household. So I got dragged to watch the Prophet speak at the Sullivan Arena. And on a Sunday, that Thursday, I saw Pantera at the Sullivan Arena. That's how weird it was. Like, that's how eclectic it was. ZZ Top, like 2 months later with my dad. It was great. I loved it. And it was such a weird, organic process discovering that stuff. But yeah, that was basically how I got into punk rock, hardcore, all stemmed from there. And then we'd go to the record store and look through the racks and try to find what looked cool. We go to pawn shops, look through the used CD racks, try to see, oh, this looks punk, let's listen to this, or this looks crazy, let's listen to this. And that's and we just challenged each other and we also didn't have a lot of money. So we'd each buy a CD and trade them or share them around.
Right.
So,
right. Was there a scene there? Was there like a local VFW where bands were playing, and was there multiple hardcore bands in town? Because, growing up in the Northeast, Philly, New York, New Jersey, endless venues, endless bands, endless scenes, all that stuff. But I imagine it's different in Alaska.
Yes. So there was a club ran by Brian Stearns. He was a security, like a concert security guy. He opened a venue called Gigs, which was our Gilman Street, basically. Like it was our CBGB or, a Fireside Bowl, whatever venue you want to call it. It was our Mecca. So we did a battle of the bands there to get to play, and then we played there regularly. And it basically was a very small, right off 4th Avenue in Anchorage, a very small club with an upstairs hangout area with like couches and beanbag chairs. So it was like this like Mecca we would go to experience each other, experience music. Like Agent Orange played there, Unsane played there, Fishbone. I wandered into the green room backstage when they were all getting high. And just like in Bad or Black Sheep, where he walks in and it's like Ziggy Marley or whatever, that was me. I'd never experienced that before. I'm like, whoa, sorry, I was trying to find the bathroom. Anyways, so that whole place was incredible. That was like the spot. There was Gigs, which was like, maybe 250 people could fit in there. Then there's the Egan Center, which is like 1,000 or 1,500. And then the Sullivan Arena. Those were the places to play. So our band, Nice Guy Eddie, played at Gigs until Gigs closed down. Gigs got demolished and built into apartments. It was awful. Then we opened for Bad Religion at the Egan Center. So we moved up. And then we were supposed to open for Green Day at the Sullivan Arena. And we got cut off and they gave it to another band like the week of. It was awful. But when Gigs was torn down, we had nowhere to do shows. So being Alaskans and resourceful, we all worked for a Little Caesars Pizza in a strip mall. The manager was cool. He let us practice there at night after the store closed. So we had drums and stuff up on the top of the walk-in cooler. And we started throwing shows there without telling any management. People would come and we would have pizzas and we would play in the lobby. And I mean, it's strip mall. It's glass in the front. You could see clearly there's a show going on in here, and it never got interrupted. But we were loading out one night to go to Anchorage to play a show in the Little Caesars van. The district manager let us use it because we didn't have a van. Um, and we got guns drawn on us, put on the ground by cops with guns in the back of our head, thinking we were robbing the place. And
Whoa.
we're like, sir, these are drums and guitars. This is a pizza restaurant. These are our, think about this. They call the manager. The manager's like, no. They work for me. They're absolutely fine. Thank you for stopping by. Please let them go. And they apologized. And we're all muddy and gross because it was raining. Had to go play a show after getting guns drawn on us. Sucked. But yeah, there was a scene, but the scene was very punk rock metal, not a lot of hardcore. There was all these bands and they were all incestuous, and like there'd be, our drummer Travis from one of my other bands was in 17 bands in Alaska.
17 bands.
Because he was a drummer. There wasn't many.
Right.
But the scene was thriving, but it was all DIY. Like I had to figure out how to get a deposit in to rent a rec center at 16 to put on shows so we could play. We got tired of playing house parties. We wanted to bring people from all over the place, and we'd play in like a vacant strip mall. We'd play in a rec center. We'd play in a park. We got a skate park built in Wasilla because we kept getting cops called on us when we were skating the banks and stuff. So Sarah Palin, she was our mayor at the time. So we had to go in front of her and say, hey, like we need a place to skate. If we raise half the money, will you put up the other half and build a skate park in Wasilla? And she met with the people and said, you know what? If you guys can raise half the money by this date, we'll put up the second half and they'll keep you guys somewhere to go. We absolutely did that and then some. And she held up her end of the bargain. And there's now the Wasilla skate park. And we would play there. It was incredible. Like we could make moves in our small town to make it what we wanted. It was like a Sims game or something. It was like a choose your own adventure. We wanted a place to skate. Let's go and get it done. And we put on show after show, selling things. Like we did it all at like 16, 17 years old. And I'm really like proud of the city and all the people in the scene for doing that. Cause I mean, I still talk like I'm talking about it now. I'm 43 years old. But it's still there and it's better than ever.
Yeah, I'm always really impressed by people who did that so young in high school. I mean, going to meet with the mayor, getting a skate park built, putting on shows, already in bands in high school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess you had to. There was no other choice, right? It was either we have to make it happen or it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Shout out to bad parenting, but like not even bad parenting, but when we were in middle school, starting high school, Nick and Joe's mom would go stay at her boyfriend's house for days at a time. So they had a trailer, and I was one of the only people with his parents still together. And I was always embarrassed of that for some reason, because I didn't want to talk about it around my friends because I felt bad. But I'd go hang out at Nick and Joe's trailer and we could practice all night because there was no neighbors. She'd leave food in the fridge and we'd be playing until 3-4 in the morning, then pass out. Learning Green Day songs, learning Op Ivy songs, learning 15 songs, like trying to outplay each other and then writing our own music. And we did that for so long. That was like the birthplace of everything for us, is this little trailer. And anyway, fast forward, Wes from Portugal, the man who was in Anatomy of a Ghost for a while, at the end, turns out we didn't know this till later, he grew up in that trailer. And then they sold it and they moved it to where Nick and Joe moved into it. So everything's incestuous in Alaska like that. Like everything's tied together.
That's wild.
So anyway, that's just a side note. But that trailer and that freedom of not having a parent around say, shut up. I mean, that's where we tried drugs for the first time. That's where we learned to smoke cigarettes and get drunk. And all that stuff was in that trailer. I think some people lost their virginity in there. It was just this place. It was our house. It was awesome.
Yeah, I feel like growing up, or at least when I was growing up, there's always a place like that, right? There's like always one place all the kids can go to do more stuff than you would be able to do at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was freedom. And she'd show up, put food in the fridge and go back to, and nothing against her. She's a great mom. She was just trying to live her life too, and we were old enough. You could be left alone back then a lot earlier than you can now,
Right. I was talking about this with someone recently. We'd be out all day until nighttime, sometimes late at night. You were just out. You were just out there doing whatever all day. That was the way it was in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, it was great. I love every second of that. Like I cherish it. It'll never happen again.
Right. Right. I do miss it sometimes. So, what did you want to do? Did you want to be focused on music? Did you want to be in a band touring? Did you think about the future at all? Like where were you at in high school, coming towards the end of high school?
Well, I always wanted to be an archaeologist. So I was fascinated with Egypt, and I don't know why I said it that way. Egypt. I always wanted to be an archaeologist, and then I didn't know what I wanted to do. Everything in middle school said marketing, marketing, marketing. Every time I did those quizzes, but then when we hit that Green Day record, when Joe came over, he's like, these guys like get in a van and tour city to city. We could do that. I was like, you know what? We could do that. Let's do that. So instantaneously, my all eggs in one basket went to touring. Like being a touring musician, I stopped doing homework. I stopped passing classes. I took as many free periods as I could to go play guitar at school. I focused through my half sister getting us connected with a producer, and so Alaska, you get a permanent fund dividend from the oil profits. So basically, they said we're going to make all this money from oil. We're going to share the profits with every Alaskan every year, and it's permanent. It will never go away. They've tried 3 or 4 times to buy everyone out with like 25 grand and never do it again. But we're like, no, it gets bigger and bigger. So it started out like $300 a year. Then it increased. And by the time I was 15 or 16, my parents let us have it. Because even if you're 2 years old, your parents get a check. So they said, you know what, you're old enough to do what you want with it. So we booked flights to Seattle to record some demos with a producer. Then we're like, we could actually do this. Like this band thing could work. So we all put everything all in 100%. Didn't want to do anything else. We worked at the pizza place just to pay the bills enough that we can get an apartment together and try to make music happen. So that's all I wanted to do. I gave up everything. I left a long-term girlfriend, just said, hey, by the way, I'm moving to Portland in 3 months. She's like, what do you mean? Well, we're going to try to get signed and tour. What do you mean? I'm like, no, like the band thing. Well, what about me? I was like, sorry, like everything. Dropped out of high school, got my GED that week, and focused 100%. And that's what we did for the next 8 years, something like that. And it worked. We moved to Portland. We got noticed. We got signed. We put out records and toured our asses off. So in a sense, it worked. In another sense, I'm not doing that anymore. So it didn't work. But I had a damn blast doing it.
Yeah. So you ended up in Portland with everyone else in Anatomy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We moved down together, got a house, and started recording our own demos. We used a dividend check to get some gear to record, figure out how to record, made some demos, put them on mp3.com, and that started blowing up. I think Static Lullaby and us were competing for like the top spot, and then we started getting calls from labels and ended up going with Rise Records right before Craig was going to close the label because he'd never recouped a record. And we were like, dude, we're going to work this thing. He's like, you can. I mean, I'll sign you, but I don't know what's going to happen. And we ended up getting bought off Rise by Fearless before the record even came out. And he recouped and then started building that label into what it is now. And we were off and running. So, yeah.
Did you tour like the whole country, all over the place? National, everything?
National, everywhere. Everywhere we could play. We drove. One drive was Birmingham, Alabama Furnace Fest to Anchorage, Alaska in one shot, 6.5 days in the van. We were road warriors. We didn't relent for anything. We'd sleep under the van, on top of the van. We had $3 a day for food. We were hungry, man, like literally and figuratively. We wanted it more than anything, and we got it.
Were you living off the band? Were you making enough from touring and just being out there that you could survive and live together? And
No, we were living, at one point we were living in a couple friends' basement. At another point, we were living in a spare room. I lived at a venue I worked at in a nursery. So the venue was 2 floors. The upstairs was rented out to a church on Sundays. They had a nursery. I lived in that nursery 5 days a week, 6 days a week. I had to move out on Saturday night and come back on Monday. So I slept on this couch in a church nursery, lived in an office of a venue, lived in a sign company building, couches. There was points in Portugal, the man, where, everyone knows how big they are now, but there was times I had to beg John for $20 to get burritos for the week so I could live and then go on tour. I left for Europe for a month and a half with $35 in my pocket and did not know what was going to happen. That's how we lived. I let bills go. I let friends, not friends go, but like relationships go. Hey, the landlord's coming. Just have them throw the stuff away. Like all my yearbooks from high school, all my achievements and stuff were gone. They were in trunks that just got thrown away by landlords. I didn't think anything was ever going to catch up to us, nor did I care. So yeah, that was, it was dicey there. We never had our own place together except before touring when we all had jobs.
Yeah. Well, so you really, I've had this conversation before on the show, like you just end up sacrificing a lot in service of the band and in service of touring. Everyone does. And you, it sounds like, just gave up everything. Do you ever think about that now and think, man, I wish I wouldn't have thrown away my yearbooks or all my stuff? And do you ever think about the past now and wish you would have approached it differently?
It depends on the situation. With my therapist, and I talk about this a lot, but if you're happy with where you are, you need to respect and appreciate everything that's happened to you up to that point. I think about anything happening differently, that magic may not have happened. I feel like I've lived 3 lives by 43 already. And I exist in several different realms of existence as far as like, if I want to dive in the music world, I can go hang out, at the Moda Center with a pass somewhere, or I can just be a plumber, or I can just be a dad. I think about it from time to time, but I don't stew on it because it was literally an adventure. I wish I had those things, but also it's become kind of a cross to bear because I can leave things very quickly. I learned how to do that. I learned how to just say, cut it and run. So this doesn't happen, but say the power gets shut off at the house. I got propane in the garage and I'll start that until I'm not going to stop. Like I just keep going. So I'm able to just deal with things or leave things behind at the drop of a hat. And it freaks people out sometimes because it's just like, what happened here? Oh, it's gone. Like it's weird. So as a functioning adult now with a real job, it's weird to have that superpower to just leave it behind.
So you still have that ability.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It could be a blessing and a curse, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's like when you have something traumatic happen in your childhood or something, you don't necessarily grow beyond that point sometimes. That's kind of where your maturity stops. It's kind of the same thing being in a band from, 16 is you never had to grow up. I didn't have to grow up till I was 35.
Yeah. Did that happen to you? We talked about this when I was on your show. You experienced some traumatic things earlier. Some, I think it was a half brother, half sister who were killed, right? How old were you when that happened?
Suicide and a murder.
Yeah.
I was, I think, 10 years old because we were still in Petersburg. My dad went to Seattle on a business trip, which was to go to her funeral, but she had killed herself when I was 10. And then it was 2007. 2007 when Dean, my half brother, was murdered. And that was crazy. And yeah, it's still a cold case.
Right.
My dad had a good idea of who did it. He had said he was going to do it several times. The police didn't even look into it. It's crazy. And it's still to this day a cold case.
That just has to be the worst feeling. Like, why didn't they look into it? And to not really have closure, it just must be torturous.
Yeah, it is. Like we talked about, I believe on the episode we did, I didn't know about Dean, Delana, or Dina, my other sister, until I was 17. My mom didn't want my dad to tell us about him, and he didn't. So I met Dean once. So it wasn't like I lost. Yes, I lost a half brother, but I didn't have that relationship with him where I was shattered. I was shattered from my dad. I was hurting for my dad because as a dad now, I don't know how I get out of bed in the morning, losing 2 kids. But he did, and he got out of bed and did what he had to do until the day he died. And so I hurt for him. And, but I did get to meet him once, and we had a big barbecue at my grandparents' house, and it was awesome. He was great, super nice, a cook at a restaurant in Seattle. And yeah, then just shit went down. It's awful. But I never met Delana. She was 16 when she had committed suicide, and my sister Dina still lives down in Texas, and I see her every once in a while.
Did you feel stunted by all that? I know I did, but I didn't realize it. I went through some stuff in middle school with bullying and all that, and I know you did too. That had a profound effect that I still feel to this day. I mentioned on your show my brother died when I was the day before I turned 16, and he was 17. That rocked an already very rocky family, and I didn't realize that I was already behind. I was already younger than I looked. I was already stunted, and that just hammered it into the ground even more. And then I got high for a long time and drunk for a long time, and only in, let's say recently, through a lot of therapeutic communities and personal work and a lot of other things, I've been able to dig through all of that and deal with it and grow up the way I need to and catch up to my own age. How did it manifest for you? Like, what you mentioned going to therapy, what kind of work did you have to do, and what was going on with you?
Well, as far as being stunted, I had no benchmark. Like what I wanted to do, there was no rules. There was no, there's people already doing it, like touring and stuff. Like I had no bench. So I had all the normal milestones I didn't care about: graduation, prom, any of that stuff. We got kicked out of our prom. We played it and got kicked out. But I didn't have any of those milestones. So my mom hated that because she didn't get to go through any of those milestones. But then, hey, your son's in Rolling Stone magazine. How do you feel about that? She didn't really care. But it's like, that's pretty cool, right? That's better than a graduation card, isn't it? Like, she didn't find it as cool as my dad did. But at the same time, being a touring musician with no money, you find out what you're made of really quick. You find out what works. You find out who you are. You find out what you're capable of. Then you can create something out of nothing. It's incredibly gratifying and a huge learning experience. That being said, once you become an adult and have to be an adult with a job and a crew of people or whatever else, you start to realize, hey, maybe I'm a little too loose on this, or maybe I'm, I forget all these things. I can't handle some of these emotions. Like I can't handle some of these situations where when I'm screaming my head off every night, getting that out, and I don't do that anymore, that I bottle things up even further. So that's where therapy steps in. It's like, I'm having trouble managing my emotions. Like I get really, really angry. And so we work through that. But all this stems back to those things. You just give things up. Yes, you give them up, but they still follow you around. Like they're not gone. They're just out of your peripheral. Like, so all these demons and all these things are still there, when everything's free, like you can indulge in whatever you want. You can, and there's no consequences, until you realize, hey, I'm almost 40 and like, this hurts. This is broken. This is, why do my knees not work? Why am I wearing hearing aids? Like, oh, cause I had fun in my early years. So that was my process. Was I just said, I need to talk to somebody. And so I started therapy and then got diagnosed with ADHD and tried a bunch of different medications for that, which we're still working through. But, I realized my organization isn't what it should be. Emotional regulation. It's all, it was a free for all forever. And when you're in an environment where it's not, then you realize, hey, I'm a little different. Like you're the guy with the cool stories that everyone wants to talk to, but maybe not necessarily the guy that should be doing, adult things. Maybe you're not prepared for it, but you learn. Just like it goes back to the DIY thing. Like, if you don't know how to do it, figure it out. And that's exactly what adult is. Like, adulting like this is figure it out. Here's a crew of people, make this building happen. All right. And then you do it. And you're like, all right, I'll do that again. You learn.
Right. How old is your kid, or how many kids?
I have a stepdaughter who's 25, and then I've got a 13-year-old and almost 12-year-old daughter.
Oh,
so
really?
My son's 13, and then my daughter's 12.
Okay. And you're married?
So, yes.
How long?
Yeah. Almost 10 years. So, yeah, it's full adult.
How do you find time to do your podcast with the family structure and the full-time job?
It's been a learning experience. When I told my wife, hey, I had this idea, I want to do this podcast. You know what a podcast is? And she's like, she listened to him before I did. There's like this, I think it was called, ironically, Keith and the Girl or something like that. Early podcast. And I remember her like cleaning the bathroom and listening to these people talk. And I was like, what is that? And she's like, oh, it's this show I listened to. I didn't know it was a podcast. And then once I discovered what podcasting was, I was like, I could do that. So I went to her, I was like, hey, what do you think? And she's like, yeah, give it a shot, And so I did. And then so I would record whenever I could, like, so-and-so can record this day at this time. Okay, go for it. Then it became COVID time, and I was off work for like 10 and a half months. And I had I'd signed Equalvision. So they let me use the office as my studio. And I was recording like 7 a week. And so my wife started getting real like, Jesus, okay, another one. And
so you were recording at the Equalvision office?
On the West Coast office, yeah.
Oh, they have a West Coast office. Yeah, that's why I was wondering how, because you're out there. How did you sign with Equalvision? How did that come about? Because I thought that was great when I saw that. I was like, oh, I didn't know labels sign podcasts, and then that was something I wanted to do once my podcast got rolling.
Yeah, that was all Dan Sanshaw, who's one of my best friends, has been for a very long time. He's the president of Equalvision, and he tried to sign Anatomy of a Ghost in the early days, and we got blinded by money and not by what we needed to be doing. So we went with Fearless. They offered a bunch of money, and Equalvision didn't have a bunch of money at the time to offer. They're like, we give you, an Atticus van to tour in, and we can get you, records out. And us being 18, 19 years old, 20 years old is like, no, we'll take the money. But Dan was at every show he could make it to still when he didn't get to sign us, and followed up with us, put out Portugal Man records, is always in our corner. People from Fearless just forgot about us. So even when we were on Fearless. So we're like, man, we made the wrong decision. And I always wanted to be on Equalvision. If I saw that Equalvision logo on any record, I would buy it just because I knew it was good. So once I started doing the podcast, Dan was coming to town. I was like, dude, you should come on my podcast. He's like, you know what? I don't do interviews, but I'll do it for you. And so we met up at a hotel, and we talked for 3 hours and didn't record it. And then because I was like, I haven't seen you in 10, 15 years. I don't want to record this. Let's just talk. And he's like, okay, next time I come through, we'll do it. And we did. And he loved it. And COVID was happening. And we were talking, a bunch. And he's like, well, what do you need to grow this thing to the next level? And I was like, I need some new gear, and I'm doing everything myself. So he's like, well, what if we helped you out? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, bands are dead right now. So what if we sign the podcast like a band, and you got access to the whole staff, art department, everything else? Would do a rebrand and throw you some dough to get some new equipment. And I was like, are you serious? Like, I'd be signed to Equalvision? He's like, well, yeah. I was like, let me put some numbers together and I'll tell you what I need, and you tell me if I'm crazy. And I sent him to him, and he's like, that is absolutely doable. Let's do this. So we did. And first episode with that rebrand was Chino from Deftones, which exploded. And then Tom from Blink-182. Like, it was a big jump. And It was wild. The podcast like doubled or tripled in size in like 4 months.
Yeah.
And, the branding on it before was just cool stuff my friends would draw. Like, here's an idea I have. Can you make it happen? Yes. That was Wes from Anatomy of a Ghost. Wooden Cyclops on Instagram. But he did all those early logos, and it had no direction. It was just thoughts I had and his process as well. When I was with Dan, I was like, let's do an actual, like, this is what I want the show to look like. I want the aesthetic to be like this. I like these fonts. I like these colors. And Alan Ashcraft created it. And to this day, I still use it. Like, it's same branding. And it's all Alan. Like, Alan was the art director for Ecovision on the West Coast and just killed it.
Yeah, I love it. When I was piecing together, my podcast followed a similar trajectory. Pretty much what you're talking about. Conversations with Iodine, planning, COVID, all that stuff. So I looked at your timeline and I was like, I want that. So I tried to piece together this cool black and white looking thing, and we went in another direction. But yeah, that timeline I loved. I was like, that's it. It's all just nice and clean looking. It's great.
Yeah, dude, it happened a bunch.
Yeah.
You're not the only one. It happened a bunch where I just sent him to Dan. I was like, dude, what? He's like, hey, all right. And but yeah, it was incredible being on Ecovision. Like, it was a dream come true. And every time I saw that logo on the bottom of my artwork, I was just like, yes, and Dan and I would talk every day. Strategy. What do you think of this guest? What do you think of this guest? Like, I was still like pushing everything mostly myself, like driving it, but I had help when I needed it for social media stuff or art stuff. Alan, can I get this design? Sure thing. Hey, can we change this? Absolutely. I'll send it to you tonight. Dan, what do you think of this? I had a partner. I still do. We still talk every week. Like, I still have a partner, even though I'm not on Ecovision, because touring came back, which made sense. And the show had grown to where they could take it, and now it just runs itself. So I'm eternally grateful for that. And he's still one of my biggest champions for the show, like, and in life in general.
Yeah. How much prep do you do for guests? Do you do extensive research? What's your process?
I do zero prep.
Prep.
As much prep as I did for this chat with you today is how much prep I do. And that was figuring out this microphone.
Really?
I don't do any prep at all. No.
Is that scary for you at all? I get really nervous if I have a big guest. If I was going to talk to a Chino or a Tom DeLonge, I'd be nervous. But what's your approach? Like, what do you want to accomplish?
I want to capture a moment in time between two people, completely natural, where what comes up comes up. Like, I want it, and I talk about it all the time, but I want it to be like a conversation on an airplane or a bus, where you just sit next to somebody and you end up talking to them, and then you get off the plane, you're like, oh shit, I learned something today. That's why I don't edit them. I don't edit anything. I literally dump the files into Audition and I put it into the template and press export. Like, every conversation, with the exception of maybe 3 or 4 where someone's like, I really shouldn't have said that. Can you take out these words? Yes, I will. Absolutely. I'm not going to hold anyone to that. But 99.9% of the show is 100% authentic, real. Coughs, chugging water, sneezes. It's all there because it's real. And that's something that I never really heard, was the real factor. And if I prep a bunch of stuff to talk to Tom DeLonge, I'm going to talk about those things. But when we can talk about, like, he's building a house, we talked about plumbing, and that led into these stories about Sting and underground pyramids in Alaska and all these things that aren't normal. But then at the end, when you sign off, they're like, that was an hour? Like, I've never talked about that stuff before. Or like, talking to Jerry Cantrell about Slash getting a snake out of his yard. Like, I wouldn't have come up. How do I write that question down? It's live time. It's real connection, and it's therapeutic. Like, it's giving someone on a press junket, especially, a breath of fresh air, and I have to be interested, and I'm not interested in writing a bunch of notes, because then the fact that it could go terribly wrong is what keeps it interesting to me. And it motivates me to not let it go there. And, people say I'm a bad interview. Not me, but people will say, hey, you don't want to talk to me. I'm a bad interview. I was like, that's my job. You just show up. And that's what I try to do.
Yeah, you know what? That's my mentality too. I'm like, no matter how bad it's going or good it's going, or if they're not giving it to me, I'm like, this is my job. It is my job to make this conversation interesting. So I never put it on the guest anymore. So I think that's the way you need to approach it. And yeah, it scares me just thinking of just going in and doing it. But hey, it's happened. I interviewed someone before. I think the PR person messed up. There was some confusion, and I had to do the interview with no prep whatsoever. They're like, he's here now. He's ready. He's been waiting for half an hour. And I was like, so I just went in, and it ended up being my biggest episode of that year. So maybe there's something to it.
Because it's real. It's real. I mean, did you have, like we talked about on the episode you did with me or on my show, the Claudio one you did, from Coheed, where you talked about his grandfather and he's, was crying through it. I don't think that was in your notes. I think he gave you that and you went with it. And that's exactly 100% why I do things the way I do them. So those moments happen.
Yeah. And I have to say, when I was on your show, I was like messed up afterwards because like, I've never been on the other side of it. I've been on a handful of podcasts, but nothing like that. And I've never talked about any of that stuff publicly before. So I got done the interview and I was sitting with my girlfriend and I'm like, I feel weird. I'm like, why do I feel weird? What's wrong? And we're talking and then I finally realized like, oh, I've never talked about any of that stuff before. And she's like, oh, like you do that, but you've never been the person. So it was so interesting to be on the other side of that.
It's a mind melter, dude. Like it's seemingly simple. People ask me all the time, like at work and stuff, like, how do you do that? How do you talk to these people? And I'm just like, they're people. Once you realize they're people, it doesn't matter anymore. But also, the weird part is because as real as you want to make it, it is still entertainment. So there's something in the back of your mind like this needs to be entertaining or this needs to have a flow. But I think we figured out how to make the naturalness the entertainment. So you're not thinking about that, because that's the other reason I don't prep, is because the whole time you're talking, I'm not listening. I'm looking at the next question and wondering how I'm going to weave that in, because I'm shaping this conversation pre-done. Like I'm previsioning this conversation. It doesn't work that way. You don't get on a bus. Okay, there's that guy. Let me write down some questions and go talk to him. It just doesn't happen that way. And yeah, I'm not shooting it down either. Like there's people that need to do that and there's people that do a great job with that. It's just not for me. And I realized that from Jeff Rickley, is the one who changed my entire outlook on this.
Oh, how so?
He was episode like 40 or 50 something. And I had always done notes just because I felt if I didn't, something would go wrong. I never used them, but I had them. And I was sitting, it was one of the first in-person ones I did. And he and I had not met before. And he was like 70 days sober from heroin. And he was in it. He was in the shit. And we just went down some dark, I was like, what? Heroin? Yeah. Like it was this genuine, awful, beautiful conversation. And at the end, I'm closing things up and he's like, are those your notes? Like I was holding a notebook that was closed the whole time. I was like, yeah. He's like, you didn't use them. I was like, you're right. I don't ever use them. He's like, then why do you do it? And I was like, I went and sat in my car and I'm like, why? I'm going to start up. Let's see what happens if I don't, it was an experiment. And it's from that moment on, I never made a note again. The only note I've made is if they want me to really like actually promote a record, I'll write down the name of the album and the release date on a Post-it note.
I have to do that because I'm so bad with, I don't know what it is with names. Even if I know someone's name, I like blank out and forget the name or get the name wrong. So I've got notes right here, right? Same. I don't really use them. Like I don't look at them for my next question. It's like a reference. Okay, your name is Dewey. Okay, here's the name of the album. Okay, and then there's like bullet points if we get stuck. But and we've talked about this. The key is to listen to what people are saying, to ask follow-up questions, to really hear what they're saying.
That's where it all comes from. They're a physical note. Like it's all notes. It's playing music. It's like Ross Robinson told me when we finished our episode, which was one of the most special episodes I've ever done in my life. Not because of Ross Robinson for all he's done, but because Ross Robinson, the human being, and I locked eyes together and we connected and we, like he said, we just made a record. That last hour and a half, we just made a record together. And I laid on the floor and just thought about that for a while because I was like, you're 100% right, sir. And we keep in touch to this day. He's a beautiful person, and all from just connecting. No notes. I wanted to know about this, so I asked. I've always liked this part of this record. What happened with that song? How'd that happen? Oh, so-and-so says hi. And then that sparks a story.
Yeah. I'm always interested in the personal, right? The person, like I had this idea in like 2009. I used to read Decibel, and I was like, oh, they should have or maybe they started doing this. I don't know what the connection was, but I was like, there should be a thing where we interview the parents of people in bands. Like imagine hearing from Caven's mom or dad, or like Converge, like someone's mom or dad, and like get like a personal touch. And I think Decibel started doing Metal Mothers or something, or one of those magazines where like they talk to someone's mom. So I've always been interested in the personal, right? Because we can hear about gear, we can hear about a record getting made, but to get that personal touch, like what do they do during the day? How do they feel about things? Like that's what I'm interested in. And it sounds like you too.
Yeah, I've said before, if you want to know what a person does, listen to the record. If you want to know who a person is, listen to my show. Because that's all it's about. Every once in a while we'll talk. If there's something really interesting on the record, like, well, let's talk about it. If they're really excited about the record, I don't have a problem talking about it. That's what we're going to talk about. Great. Like, I'm here for it. That's all. I'm here for it. I hope I don't waste your time. That's it. That's my fear. It's not my fear. If it sucks, I won't put it out. Big deal. But I don't want to waste their time. I don't mind wasting my time. It's my choice to do it that way. So I have to give up caring if I waste my time, but I care very much if I waste their time. And, it can happen, but it really doesn't, because it's just, if you're genuine about it, genuinely curious, people are interested.
How do you feel about other podcasts? Usually we don't really mention each other that much. And here's my thing. I don't dislike anybody, and I keep an eye on shows, right? Like I'll look at what you're doing, and I've gotten ideas for guests. I'll look at First Ever. I'll look at what 100 Words is doing. I'll look at and check on people, and I don't dislike anybody. I'm not like enemies with anybody, but I notice there's not a lot of conversation unless something happens, like with us. Like you asked me to come on, and I was like, awesome, yes. And Ray, I saw at the Taken shows with This Day Forward. So I went and talked to him, and I was talking to him about stuff. So how do you feel about other podcasts? What's your mindset on the whole thing?
I think to each their own, man. Like I'm proud to be a part of this medium. I feel like I've established myself pretty well in this medium over the last 8 years and made a footprint, and forged a path somewhat of hopefully maybe inspiring others to do the same or follow the same formula. But no, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't even listen to a ton of music. Like I listen to a lot of audiobooks now. I've never really listened to a lot of podcasts. Like there's some I listen to yours all the time. Like I listen to my buddy John Beatty's podcast, Brutally Speaking. I listen to I started listening to some true crime podcasts just for fun to change things up, because I was like, why is this so popular? And then I'm hooked on some stuff. Like I'll listen to the big guys like Zane Lowe every once in a while, because I would love to talk to him. He's got a good style. And then I'll listen to like these, bigger podcasters that I'm like, it's nothing special. Like, but yeah, I think the medium's great. I think everyone and their brother starts one and no one continues it. You know, a lot of them don't make it to 100 episodes. I've helped other people start podcasts. I've consulted with people on podcasts. I've helped band guys start their own podcasts, and I love it. But I don't listen to a lot of them because I don't consider myself a podcaster. Like, it's more of just like kind of a, I don't know. It's delivered in the form of a podcast, but what I do, I don't feel is really that in line with what a podcast is. I think it's just the delivery method.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't listen to them at all anymore. And I didn't before I started one even. There was only one that I listened to that kind of inspired mine that was not a music podcast. But I used to listen to you and First Ever sometimes and 100 Words sometimes if I wanted to research a guest, but I don't do that anymore because I don't want it to be spoiled. I want to hear their voice for the first time. I want to figure out who they are for the first time. So I'll just read print articles to get my notes. But I wish there was more time. I want to sit and listen to a record 5 times and figure out, am I really going to like this record? Is it going to become my favorite record ever? I want to watch movies more. I want to watch TV more. But I just am here working and editing and interviewing, and that's it. So it's somewhat comforting to hear that you're not listening to a ton of music either.
Yeah, I have a 15-minute commute to work, and then I'm at work. I'm on a construction site. I don't have headphones in, you know. I can't do the whole peripheral listening, you know, but I do. I think, was it Jay Moore was talking about, called it appointment listening. Like, you can't get upset because no one forced you to listen to this. If it's bad, you chose to listen to it for some reason. You know, it's not like the radio where you're like, oh, this is on again. You know, you seeked it out and press play. It's a cool thing. And it's free. That's also cool. And it's remained free. Apple could have charged 25 cents an episode and made trillions. You know what I mean? Like, if your podcast, I was reading an article about this, if your podcast gets 100 downloads a month, you're in the top 8%. There's that many podcasts that don't do anything.
I've read those statistics, and I always hoped that was true because I'm like, all right, that means I'm doing pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah. You think of how many podcasts are out there. I mean, everyone in every comedian in the world has one. You know, now the one thing that drives me crazy is when someone has a built-in fan base and starts a podcast that just blows up, but it's not very good.
That bothers me because I've had to start from the complete ground up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So I do have that little bit of like, oh, God.
Oh, and whenever anyone starts a new podcast with the word scene in it, could everyone please stop doing that? Just no more. No more. I'm like, I wish I would have thought about the name a little bit more, but
yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. Do you still like it? Do you still like doing it?
Yes and no. There's times I want to just stop. There's times I've thought about just walking away sometimes. So, like, people have these like milestone episodes, and I've been guilty of celebrating that too. You know, like or more of like the timeline, like the 5-year mark. I had 3 of my favorite guests or people so I had Chino on again. He's like, I got you. I'll do this for you. I was like, He's like, I'm not doing any other press this whole time. I was like, great. So we went to his house and did episode 2, or the second episode of him. And it was one of the best conversations I've ever had, just in general, not even recorded podcast, but just like, it was incredible. And the fact that he did that for me was amazing. Like, we've done a lot of things for each other over the years that really cement that friendship. It's one of my favorite relationships that I have. Not because of who he is, but just the things we've had to do. And like, it's interesting. It's interesting when someone comes to you and then you hit it off, but you've listened to them your whole life. It's weird. It's a weird thing, but like, that kind of stuff, like, that would have never happened if I didn't keep doing this. There's people that have, made it through a night where they were going to end things, listening to an episode over and over again, like that wouldn't be alive. Like it's this weird, like it's not FOMO, but like it's kind of like that. But so there's times where episode 3, whatever, and then I'm done and I just walk away, don't say anything. The episode, record it as normal and just disappear. I've thought about that. I've thought about waiting for a milestone and doing it then. I've thought about doing it the rest of my life. I don't know when it will stop. I hate it sometimes and I love it sometimes, but I think it's important still. And once it becomes unimportant, I think it'll be over. But I do still get something out of it. I do. And, once it's not a part of my identity anymore, I think it'll be time, but I've struggled with that too. Why do I care? I'm wearing an Alice in Chains shirt, but why do I care to work for 2 years to talk to Jerry Cantrell for an hour? Like, why? Why does that matter? Why do I need that in my life to feel complete? Why do I need to put effort into that? Or why do I feel the need to make that happen? He's just a person. And he was great. And I loved every second of it. But why? What drove me to need that? Why can't I just be Dewey, a dad, a plumber, and go about my life? Why do I need those cool stories? Why do I need to be Dewey from this? I've always needed to be Dewey from this. I'm Dewey from Anatomy of a Ghost, Dewey from Portugal the Man, Dewey from the Peer Pleasure podcast. So when people introduce me, or like at a work function, oh man, you sat next to the right guy. Here you go. Like, boom. Did you know he's kind of a celebrity? No, I'm not. But they start things that way. And then it makes things easier because everyone's interested all of a sudden. Why do I need to be Dewey from this? Why can't I just be Dewey? Since middle school, I have not been able to figure that out. But I've always chased something else. I've never been content with where I'm at. Even now, I'm not content just being a dad and a plumber. I need this extracurricular thing. And if I don't have that, it'll be something else.
Right. I have that too. And I kind of told myself this story that I didn't really do anything over the years, but I went back and traced and saw, okay, almost every year I was doing something since I was 21. Bands, different things, comedy, party promotions, booking, whatever. Yeah, I always needed to be doing something. And then when I got sober, that became the focus. And then it was just stuff all the time, band, acting, podcast, another band. Like, so I live in fear of just going to work and coming home and just like watching movies or TV. I've done that. There was years where I did that, and I live in fear of that. So I have that same thing, whatever it is, where I need to create something. I need to be able to say to people, hey, look, I did this thing. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe it sounds like we have somewhat similar upbringings, so there must be something there.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, once you realize you can create, so like I said earlier, you can create something out of thin air, out of an idea, and make it a tangible thing, like a band, a career, a podcast. Like, this isn't just an idea of, I could probably do something like this, and now it's a thing. Like, when you can create, I mean, it's the basic thing, like having kids. Like, it's an incredibly like ego boosting thing to want to create another one of yourself. Like, I like myself so much, I want to make a few more. You know, it's human nature, but it's human nature, I think, is innately like selfish. You know, like, what happens when something bad happens? You run for your life. You don't grab somebody and help them. You run for your life. You know, oh, hey, I'm going to die someday. I better have a few more of me to keep me in the world. You know, like, I better, you know, it's a weird way of looking at it, but I feel like it's just human nature. We want to make something that will outlast us. And if we haven't done that yet, we'll strive for it forever. You know, these towers that I'm building, they'll outlast me for sure. Whoever owns them, who knows what they are, who knows, but they'll still be standing there. Why do we need to do that? I don't know. I don't believe we'll be here to see it when we're gone. So who cares if there's 5 people at your funeral? Who cares if you lived a tiny life? If that was what made you happy? I don't want to live a small life. I never have. And I fear that. I fear a small existence. I like to be able to go to a different state and run into somebody that I know, or someone runs into me and says, hey, I love what you do. Like, that you're reaching something. which happens. It happened in New York a bunch of times. Like it's a weird compulsion, and I don't know how I feel about it. I kind of feel like an asshole that I even think about that kind of stuff. You know, I don't know. There's something to it. I don't know what it is. I still haven't figured it out. I almost had a nervous breakdown a few years ago when I just kind of stopped doing episodes. So I was like, why do I care?
How
Why
long?
do I care? How long of time off?
Yeah.
Oh man, I've done it twice. 3 months maybe each. You'll see it if you look through the timeline on the dates. Like it'll just stop. I think I stopped once. I did Chris 2 from Anti-Flag back before all that stuff happened. And then that was it. And I was on Adobe Radio and I released the same episode for like 4 months and they didn't even notice. So I was like, okay, that's a scam. And then I came back with Tepe from Thrice from that break. And then shit, I forget the second time who it was and who I came back with. But once I came back, it just felt so good. I was like, this is part of life.
What was the nervous breakdown about? I've almost hit that point a couple times where it's just too much. Like I get like real angry and I feel like I want to smash up my keyboard or my phone and I feel panicked. And then it happened before and then I'd like deleted a bunch of, I was doing like a new scene gaming thing. I deleted all the pages. I deleted all these band profiles I don't use anymore. I deleted everything I didn't need. And then I had to interview Mike from The Devil Wears Prada that day. And I was like, I can't cancel this. I don't know if I'll be able to rebook it. So I shut off my phone. I deleted everything and I felt, like crazy. And then I ended up having a really nice conversation with him and that brought me back. So what was going on with you?
It was the pressure of it becoming a job because it does make money. So like it was paying bills and it became a job. Like why it became everything I didn't want to become. Like it was the most natural thing still. Like I wanted it to be, but it was a job. Like I have certain days of the week that I still do because that's the only way I can do it is have a certain day where it's on. And I was doing so many episodes trying to pack them all in. And I'm arguing with myself like, okay, I can do 4 in a day. Why am I putting 2 hours of time for this person when it could be 3 or 4? It's like making notes. Like I'm predetermining is this conversation, this person I only know this well, it's only going to go for an hour so I can schedule the next person here. That's not fair to them. It's not staying true to what I said I would do. So I was questioning myself. Then doing so many episodes, I used to do the 12 days of peer pleasure in Christmas time. And that's how I would kind of clean out the inbox of episodes. And putting out 12 episodes in 12 days is exhausting. So I did that like 3 years in a row. That was a burnout. And then just struggling with what I was talking about before. Why do I care if I get this person on? What does that do to my life? It does nothing different to my life. It gives me a story and a way to make the show seem legitimate. But why do I care? Why don't I just have my neighbor on? If I can't have the same interesting conversation with my neighbor, this shouldn't work at all. And then I would hear shows like, is it not The Moth, but like, is it This American Life, where they just talk to somebody and everyone has a story. Why am I not brave enough to just do that? Why am I chasing these mega rock stars? Why am I chasing these legends when the story probably isn't as cool as my neighbor? So I had this moment of like extreme panic for no reason, really. Like it was like, am I a fraud? Like, am I in this for the wrong reasons? Because I preach one thing, am I staying true to that? And then it was like, well, I could just shut it down. And then I just kind of walked away from it in a way, just like everything else. Like I said earlier, like you can just walk away from shit. I build something for 8 years and walk away tomorrow. But I couldn't stay away from this one. So that's why I came back. And I was just like, this might be it. But then it's weird. People were reaching out like, what's going on? I was like, I don't know. Like, well, we want more stuff. I'm like, I'm sorry. Go make a podcast. Go do it yourself, fuckers. Yeah, don't put that on me.
Like the burden of like I have to do this every week no matter what is like that's where I'm at. I'm like I don't want to do it every week anymore. I don't I don't know if that'll be forever. I just want I want to decide when I do it. I want to do that for a year. And I decide when I want to do it and who I want to do it with, you know? And then see where that takes me.
That's a big thing when you talk about like other podcasts, not listening to other podcasts is that's why I don't go through publicists and I love the publicists that I have relationships with very much. They've been so good to me, but I don't like their release schedule dictating my guest lineup. I don't like that because then Ray, Shane, me, you, release the same person in the same 2 weeks. And it's like, okay, we just got not played, but we had things handed to us strategically, which is great. But I like to control the flow of how that goes. I want to talk to this person. They haven't put out a record in 10 years. Put it out because that's who I wanted to talk to that week, you know? And of course, I take a bunch of stuff from publicists that reach out with something cool, but I kind of put it out when it's, if they're like, could you put this out around the release date? Sure. But then, 3 other podcasts, I don't think that's effective. I think if they're staggered, it would work better.
Wait, so you don't deal with publicists? What do you do? Do you just reach out to people? Do you know people? What's your strategy?
Well, at first I reached out to friends from the road and touring. Then that ran out. So I started reaching out to publicists and managers. That worked for a while, but then it started to get formulaic of how things were released and things like that. So it started with my friend Jenny Cotterill, who's been on a couple times. We did the first episode in my car in the rain out front of a club at night and got out. Windows were all fogged up. People were staring at us, wondering what happened in there. The Avenged Sevenfold guys, Johnny, talks about this too because he's friends with Jenny, and that story, I guess, passed around quite a bit. She's fantastic. And I just asked her one day, like, who else should I talk to? Like, you had a good time. Like, who else should I talk to? And she's like, well, you talk to my friend Zach. He's in this band Rise Against. And I was like, I'm very well aware. Can you hook us up? So she sent me his number. And I texted him, and when he came on, we had a great time, and I actually helped him start a podcast. But then, Zach, who should I talk to? If they have a good time, who should I talk to next? Oh, I could connect you with this person. Cool. And it just became this web, this natural, organic web of connections. And then those connections turn into others, or, like Karina Round from Pussifer is a musical genius. I got connected to her through Monica at Speakeasy. She had an amazing time, and she went to her husband, Greg, and from Failure, and was like, you need to do this podcast. And he doesn't like doing podcasts, but he came on because she said, you should do this. Like things like that. Like you create a space where people feel comfortable and listened to, which is genuine. It's not like a plan, but if you create that, things will grow from that. And that happens all the time. Hey, have you heard of this band, or have you talked to this person? No, I haven't. Well, let me send you their number. They're down to do this. So I did that for a long time, like a year and a half. And then I started like going back with publicists and stuff. But I would try to establish a relationship with the publicist, like Charlie from Cosa Nostra. Like, she's a good friend of mine. I had her on the podcast. Amy from Adam Splitter. Like, I had her on the podcast. Like let's do Monica, come on the podcast. She won't do it. But we talk outside of this. Like, I want to get to know these people, and I want them to get to know me. So when they pitch something, they know, hey, this would probably work. Or, hey, could you do me a favor and talk to this person? Absolutely.
Yeah, there are some I talk to a little more. Shout out Monica. But I need a Jenny in my life. I need people to pitch me to other people and say, you should come on this podcast. So if anyone is out there, help me help you.
Just ask, when you're done, if they had a good time, or they think, hey, like Jim Ward from Sparta was the one who hooked me up with Brooks from War on Women, and Brooks hooked me up with, it's just all that stuff. But Brooks at the end was like, where do I send the bill for therapy? And I was like, that's great. Who should I talk to next? And he's like, oh, here's, and it's just this, like, I don't know. It feels so good I've always loved networking, but it's not networking. Like, it's just genuine stuff. Like but it inevitably is networking. But when you can just reach out for something, and you follow up with these people and you check in on them and you check in throughout the year, like, or, hey, happy birthday, or, hey, how you doing with that thing, or just checking where your head's at, you just maintain these relationships. It drives my wife nuts because she's like, you're always on your phone. I was like, I know. But I forget the number, but I was like, well, how many text conversations do you have going right now? And she had like 5 or 6, and I had like 97.
Wow.
And I'm just like scrolling through them, and I could tell you any one of those, what's happening right now in that conversation. I know it's fucked up, but she's like, well, I wish you could pay that much attention at home. And I was like, yeah, me too. Right. Well, why do I put more importance on that? That's another thing that spawned that breakdown. Like, it was like, why do I have the need to do this? And I don't know. And I still don't know. I don't have that answer, and still creeps up on me sometimes.
That human networking, reaching out piece is something I lack, because I always think, like, I don't want to bother people, or they don't want to be bothered by me. So that's something to think about. But have you ever wanted to get back into? All right, two-part question. Number one, how did you? All right, you were in Anatomy of a Ghost. You went on to Portugal the Man. You were touring with them for a while. Two-part question: how did you end up not touring and being in bands anymore? And do you ever want to get back to it? Do you ever think that you want to get back to it in some degree?
Well, the long and short of the ending touring thing, Poison the Well is, so here's the thing. Poison the Well is responsible for me getting into heavy music. 100%. Just them. Poison the Well is also the reason I don't do music anymore.
Really?
Well, it's simple. It's a simple logistics thing. So once Anatomy of a Ghost broke up and I joined Portugal the Man, I was a touring member. So I didn't write for the band. I did some recordings on records, but I didn't contribute to the band creatively. I was a hired gun, which was still cool. I had no responsibilities. I just wake up and play and do what I wanted. None of the business or debt landed on me. Nothing. It was awesome. And they're my friends. So it was great. But so we did a full US tour with Poison the Well. It was Portugal the Man. The last, I joked with Jeff from Poison the Well the other night at the show about this, but that's the last time Portugal was second of 4. But it was Heavy Heavy Lolo, then us, then Fear Before the March of Flames, and Poison the Well. We did a full US tour. Poison the Well and us had become friends with Anatomy of a Ghost when we were on Warped Tour together back in 2003. So we already had a relationship. And I love that band, and I let them know. And that Warped Tour, like, I had a fight with my girlfriend, put on Tear from the Red, and I was like, I get screaming now. I understand. I hated it before. I understand now. Botchla, like, just hit me on my boombox, on my alarm clock, hit me like a ton of bricks, and it just made sense.
What a great song.
It's so good. But so we do the tour, and I'm throwing down with those guys every day. I hung out with them more than the band. Like, Ryan and I would walk around talking about our dads and gear and stuff, just hanging out. And it was wonderful. And Brad Clifford was playing guitar for him at the time. And I believe his name's Mike from Candiria was playing bass as touring members. And I was going to Europe with Portugal the Man. This was probably like a Friday morning flight. Thursday before that, Ryan emails me. He's like, hey, we need a bass player. Would you want to play bass for us? And move to Florida and all. I was like, dude, I'm leaving like tomorrow for a month and a half with Portugal the Man, but I absolutely will do that. Because at the time they were bigger, they toured more countries, and I thought it was a step up, which it would have been. But when I reached out halfway through that Portugal tour, I believe they got a bigger tour or something and left and took a buddy of theirs, and he ended up staying on. I let Portugal know before we left that, hey, this is my last tour. I'm going to join Poison the Well. They're like, oh shit, right on. So they had already replaced me. So when I got back from Europe, I had no job. So instead of like scrambling and finding something, I just said, you know what? I've kind of done everything I wanted to do with touring, I'm kind of ready for the next chapter. And that's exactly where it went. I walked down the street to the Target, went in to apply for a job, and they made me a manager. And then I worked at group level and in management, and then moved into plumbing. So, yeah, I just took what was around me and made something work, just like I've done my whole life. Do I miss it? No, because I see the state of music now with touring, how important touring is. It's like a lifeline now because you can't sell records. The frustration bands have when I talk to them about that whole thing, watching how hard they have to work, being able to go home and sleep in I can go hang out, and this isn't a flex, but most weeks I could go to a venue in town, get a pass, hang out with some friends, have a blast, watch show from the side stage or whatever else, dip my toe in that life, and go home and sleep in my own bed and go to work the next day. I like that. I can be a tourist in all these different facets of life. I don't have to commit to any of them except my family. So that part is cool. So I don't ever get the urge to go back on tour. I do get the urge to travel. And so I have said, like with the Portugal guys the other night, I was talking to Johnny at Poison Well. He came out. I was like, hey, I've not been to Australia. I've not been to Japan. If you guys are doing like a week in Japan, I know you got an extra bunk in the bus. I'll do production. We can record podcasts of the trip, whatever you want. Let me stow away and work and go see those countries. And they're like, absolutely. That's a great idea. And I was like, well, next time it happens, let's do it. And I'll do that. But I don't want to commit to more than that.
So you're still getting the experience because you're going places, you're going to other cities. You were just here for Deftones. You'll travel with people, you'll record, you'll whatever. So you're still getting that experience.
Yeah. I mean, I've gotten some offers I can't speak about, but I've gotten some offers over the years that I have turned down. And I'd be an idiot for turning those down, 15 years ago. But now that I have a family, like I'm confident in turning those down because I know what comes with it, and it's not good for anyone.
Yeah.
Financially, sure, but not time lost.
Right.
To further something that's not mine.
Anatomy toured with This Day Forward back in the day. You know those guys?
Absolutely. Yeah.
When?
Yeah.
What year?
I just saw Vadim last Monday. It was 2003, I believe. It was our first East Coast tour. It was the Radio Takeover tour. It was Haste, Bear vs. Shark, us, and This Day Forward. It was all down the East Coast. It was our first time there, so we were so excited. Nick Storch was booking it. Nick Storch is still a good friend. Colin was tour managing it because Nick put him in charge and he hated it. So we always called him Tour Manager Colin. We were told to call him Tour Manager Colin before we even got there. And those guys have been friends ever since. The Haste guys, not so much. We didn't really click after that. But Bear vs. Shark, great friends to this day. This Day Forward, great friends to this day. Mike Shaw just moved to California. I saw Vadim last Monday. Colin's back in Philly or wherever. He's been on the show a couple times. And yeah, been to his house in Portland when he was here for like a party deal they were doing, some kind of celebration. I don't remember what it was for. But yeah, to this day, like friends, you can just pick up where we left off. It's so cool.
I love that. Yeah, they're like my best friends from when we're 16. They got me into this music. I toured with them, selling merch. I filled in on bass for them one time. So great people. Mike told me when he was on your show that he mentioned me. And he was like, oh, you should have my friend Keith on. And then he told me that. And I remember thinking, wow, I would love to go on that show. So I'm glad we ended up getting in touch.
Yeah, that's why. This is Mike Shaw.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you should have him. I was like, that's a great idea. Yeah, I'll reach out to him. And that's exactly what happened. It was all Mike. It was just the same thing. Just, hey, you should talk to this guy. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
See, there it is. There's the thing. Yeah.
There's the web. The web is extended.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I think about because I can feel the internal struggle in me right now. I'm like, I want to reach out. I want to befriend people. I want to go to events. But then the other part of me is like, no, you're too busy. You can't. You won't want to go. So it's just like this. I don't know. It's this internal struggle that I have. But we talked about this a little bit too when I was on your show. I do make friends with people. I'll connect with people that I talk to. They'll say, hey, come to the show. I'll come to the show. I'll say hi. It happens. So, I do it too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice. I mean, it's people in that realm, especially the bigger people in that realm, appreciate having someone that's real, that doesn't want something from them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the big thing, is you don't want anything from me. Like, you just want to talk or, hey, let's go grab a sandwich. Not, hey, can I bring 7 friends to talk your ear off while we grab a sandwich?
Right.
Hey, can you sign these? Like, no.
Like, yeah, like I want people to come on my show because I'm interested in them, but I'm not like angling to be your friend. I'm not like weaseling to get a pass. So yeah, if those connections happen, they're genuine. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the way it goes, man. Like, when you're in a world where everyone tells you yes and everyone wants something from you, it's nice to not have that. It's nice to have someone that tells you no. I don't think you should do that. Oh, really? Well, why? Well, think about it. Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't do that.
Right. Honest feedback is rare.
It's important for friendship. It's important for, just be honest.
Well, let's tell the people what's going on. We can look forward to more Peer Pleasure podcast, of course, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a bunch done already. So regardless, those will come out.
Yeah. When you told me you recorded like 6 in a night or whatever it was when you talked to me, that blew my mind. I've done 2 back to back and I don't want to do more than that. I'm blown away that you can do that.
I wanted to do it that night because I was like, man, I need to catch up here. But also, like, I think I can do this. I used to do it this way. And it was great. They were all good. Like, I had a blast. Like, I'm doing one at 4:30 a.m. tomorrow, and then I'm doing another one at 4 p.m. tomorrow. And then, it's a time zone thing. And
4:30 a.m.
Yeah, Sweden. It'll be 1:30 in the afternoon.
Is the person you're talking to from Sweden someone who was just in a band we all know who may or may not have just done their final tour?
Yes. Yeah, it's David, the drummer, and then Dennis and I are going to do another one too. We hung out the other night and had a good conversation. I was like, we should save this. This is going to be good.
Will you tell him that he should come back on the New Scene podcast too? Because I'm trying to make that happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Course. Dennis or David?
Dennis.
Yeah.
But I would talk to David too.
Yeah, David's very interesting. David is a conversationalist, and he can go, man. It's awesome. We've had some long conversations just hanging, and and then Nick Hexum from 311 at 4:00 tomorrow, and then there's a band called Slow Mass. Dave from Slow Mass is after Nick from 311 tomorrow. So I have 3 tomorrow, but one starts at 4:30 in the morning.
And what else is going on? Can we look forward to an Anatomy of a Ghost reunion at any point? Has that ever been spoken about? Would you want to get back on the road with Portugal the Man and make it on Obama's next playlist? What else? What else is going on?
If I toured with Portugal the Man, it would be as a tourist and just sleeping in the junk bunk and doing something behind the scenes. And Anatomy of a Ghost, I would never say never, but I would say never probably on that one. I don't think it's a step Portugal the Man wants to take, going back to that. I know like Mars Volta went back to At the Drive-In, but I don't see Johnny wanting to go back to screaming his head off in girl jeans and doing the windmill with his arms and not having a guitar in his hands.
Why do it if you don't have to?
Yeah, exactly. So, and I don't think the money would be there to where anyone who didn't want to do it would want to do it because of that, because we weren't that big. It gets brought up. I'm sure we probably got an offer thrown in for either Furnace Fest or When We Were Young, but I never saw it. That wouldn't come by my desk. But I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I don't see it happening at this point. We all get together still and hang out, but we've never done music again, ever, with each other.
Well, Dewey, this has been great. I loved being on your show, and I love that you came on my show as well, so I could ask you everything I wanted to ask. And This is great. And, if you're going to be in New York again and you have time to hang out, hit me up, text me. We'll meet up. We'll cultivate that relationship.
We'll do. See, that's what it's all about, man. And I'm glad we did separate conversations because it drives me. I've done it in the past where we release it on both platforms. It just isn't. It's weird.
I won't do that. No.
Yeah, and I'm glad because this is a whole different conversation. And
because I want you to have the my show experience, and I want to experience your show. It should be an independent thing, right? We got to come into each other's den and get the experience.
Exactly, we've done it.
And there you have it. Dewey Halpaus. What an excellent conversation. I'm glad that I got to connect with Dewey. I'm really glad that I got to be on his show. I don't know if you heard that interview, but it's my favorite interview that I've ever done. And I didn't ever think I'd be on that show. Have you seen his guest list? Have you seen it? It's great. But it was great talking to Dewey. My conversation with him on this show reminded me that I don't know. Maybe I need to be a little more loose with the conversations I have on this show. I get myself in such a frenzy, and sometimes I'll go crazy with research, and I'm like, I have to take all these meticulous notes. I have to be ready. I have to be ready for anything that happens, but you just never know what's going to happen until you get in the conversation. Until you're in it, you do not know what's going to happen. And talking to Dewey reminded me of that. Every conversation on this show is unique, and my philosophy is it's my job to get to the bottom of whatever it's going to be. It's exciting. You never know what's going to happen. It could go good. It could go not so good. It could go in a direction you don't even expect. You could connect deeply with someone that maybe you thought you wouldn't. It's just, that's what I like most about it, is the surprise of the whole thing. And I just really like Dewey's approach. He used to take notes. He didn't use them at all. And now he doesn't use them at all. He just goes in and has a unique conversation with the person he's talking to. And I think that's cool. I mean, do we need to hear Tom DeLonge tell the story of, writing the singles for Take Off Your Pants and Jacket again? Do we need to hear that story again? Everyone knows that story. He goes in and he has a unique conversation with the people he's talking to, and I respect it. And it was great getting to know him better. So thank you so much, Dewey, for coming on the show. So let's check in. How are we doing? I'm doing okay. It's still a grind at work, but I'm used to it at this point. If my voice sounds hoarse, it is. There was a memory entry band practice today, and I was screaming my head off, but the LP is coming together. We've got like 5 songs we're working with. It's starting to take shape. I'm pretty excited about that. Now, I completely forgot about this, but I recently saw Mono and Alcest at Warsaw. Warsaw is a venue in the Greenpoint section of Brooklyn. Imagine a really big VFW hall. I like it. It's a good venue, and it's close to home. And this was my first time seeing Mono. And I have to say, I was completely blown away. I haven't heard a ton of Mono on record. This was my first time seeing them. I think this was the best performance I've seen this year so far, easily. I was completely blown away. I got the feels from it. And that does not happen. And that does not happen a ton these days. After Mono was Alcest. My first time seeing them too. Really dug it. I want to do a deep dive on their discography. I haven't heard a ton of them on record either, but I really liked what I heard. And that's about it. Things are really busy this weekend, and I'm struggling to keep up with things as usual. So that's going to be it for this week. And I'm back next week with a new episode and a new guest. I'll see you then.